Okay, so deformers. Deformers are a lot of fun and very powerful. They're in the animation menu set, but they can be used for modeling. Um, and so yeah, let's just quickly look at a couple. This video will focus on some of the main ones. So we'll start with the lattice. Okay, so, and interesting. I thought I told it to, all right, I had to, all right, create deformers. Create deformer lattice. There we go. Okay. So I've made a lattice and we should look over in the hierarchy. The hierarchy popped up on the other window here. And okay. So here's what it's built. I always have it set to put the group, the lattice and the base in the group. All right. So this is the lattice. If you look over here in the channel box, you can see FFD1, Freeform Deformer Lattice, okay? And it has its divisions, and then you have the base. The base, as you see in the highlighting there, is the exact size of the lattice. And so if I move these guys together, no problem, okay, as a group. If I move this guy individually, it takes the whole it takes the head with it. All right, so knowing what group you're on when you're moving. So that's moving the lattice. I grab the FFD lattice there and move it, and that's what happens. Okay, so before I do anything on this, I have to set up the number of divisions. Okay, once I start moving individual lattice points, I can't come back and change that number. So I have to, make sure I get it right the first time. Or, well, you just Z back and you do it again. So, which is the more typical workflow. Okay, so I have a bunch of these lattice points which I've just selected, and as you see, it's now contorted my head based on that. And so as I move this up, and you can see why it's an animation tool, is it allows you to do fun things like this. And a little freaky. And the nice thing is, I delete it off, no harm, the head's back to the way it was. So let's just toss that on again. Create lattice, there we go. And so now the other thing that you can do with it is I can look at this model here and I can say, hey, the back of it's a little too squared off, or maybe I want to bring not have the back of the head so square. Just trying to think of big broad things that might make sense. And so I could pull it back like that. Okay, and that's maybe a little bit more normal, and maybe I want to scooch this in a bit. Okay, so there, maybe that's looking a little bit better. Okay, and so then once I'm done with that, I just do one of our favorite little guys here, which is the Edit Delete by Type History, and presto. Now it's as if I modeled it that way. So, that's why it's a great modeling tool, is that I can try different things across the whole mesh, and it's not a big deal if I can easily throw them away or confirm them. Okay. So, another nice thing, I guess let's do it over here, is if I'm having problems with just part of a model, I can select a bunch of CVs, okay? And I know I'm getting them on the back, but okay. And then I can toss on a lattice onto that. And let's say go 6 by 6 there. And grab the lattice points. So I can even do it on groups of CVs and not just the whole geometry. That's why it's one of the really powerful things. So it's light, it's an easy calculation for the computer, and it's yeah, All right. So other deformers. Okay. Oh, and probably should mention what the base does before I get too far along. All right, let's get that squeezed back in like that. Here's the base object. It's just a box. That's all it ever is. And so if I pull the base object out, it's the magic region that the lattice takes effect in. Okay, so you just always have to be aware of where it is um, and whether you should be moving things on the as a group. And let's see. Just quickly center the pivot of that group. Okay, or if I'm going to modify the lattice or whatever. So just knowing where you're setting your keyframes is super duper important. Now another handy thing to do, if I grab my um, lattice points here, okay, yeah, I can technically set keys on those, but that can get a little clunky. So there's another guy here in Deformers, which is called the cluster. Okay, and so the cluster, all right, just has a standard scale to it that I can keyframe. I can also have the normal rotate tool for, and the translate tool. Okay, so the clusters, it's sort of a bag to put CVs or lattice points. So I can really just grab the CVs here, put a cluster handle on them, and then I'm moving around that, that eyebrow there with this cluster. Okay, and so once again, if I delete the cluster, it pops back, no harm. If I do delete history, it locks it in. So clusters are super powerful. They can have some issues. So sometimes it's good to have a group above them as well, and that solves a lot of the cluster problems that sort of pop up. Okay, so I will do a separate video for the nonlinear deformers, but let's go to the sculpt deformer. Okay. Yeah, let's see. Group sculptor with locator. Yep. That's the only thing I really do different in here. And so the sculptor, I'll grab the group and let's modify center the pivot there on the group. Okay. So moving the group around, you can sort of see what happens. It's very powerful. All right, as I can sort of dent things in with it, and I can animate this. Just like the others, if I need to delete the history, that will take care of things for me. All right, and it's looking a little too weird there, Steve. Okay, but yeah, so that can punch things in, and so you got your sculptor. Where's my mouse? Okay, so you got the sculptor and you got your maximum displacement. Okay, and all this is keyable. All right, and you got your drop-off distance. Okay, and you sort of play with the two of them. Not much. Usually the defaults are pretty good on this. I'm going to Z back a bit. And then you got this guy. This is your sculpt stretch origin. Okay, so if I pull that over to this side, okay, it will push the sculptor, okay, and so if I just rotate that around, you can see what happens is it's always on the far side of where the locator is. All right, so that can create some really handy effects at times. All right, so all this is keyframeable. And you can apply this to a lattice. So you can have the sculptor affecting your object in a lattice already. So that's the sculpt. Very handy. I've solved a lot of problems with that tool over the years. The other guy in here, of just sort of the general ones I want to cover in this particular video, is the wire deformer. And I only use this once in a while. And we'll just toss that across like that. And good. Okay, so I've made a curve there. Okay, so it's just a cute little curve. Do a modify and center the pivot. Move that out, sort of near the brow there. And okay, so I can make this into a wire deformer. So let's see. I'll grab the wire tool, and okay, so I have the objects, and it can be multiple objects I want the wire deformer to control. So I click on that, and then I click on the, I hit enter. Then I grab the curve, I hit enter there, and so now as I move this, okay, as I move the wire on the CVs, okay, it will deform that shape. So it's a little bit handier, I find, to, at this point, you guessed it, add a few clusters. So each of these guys, I would just go through and add a cluster to. So good, and G, and okay. And so now I can keyframe those cluster handles, okay, and have it deform this guy using the wire deformer. Okay, so that's some of the basic deformers. They're handy for animation, as you can imagine, but they're also really good for modeling. And you just delete the history, and it's as if you modeled it that way. And yes, you can apply the wire deformer to a lattice and have that drive it. So yeah, you can have a sculpt deformer applied to a wire deformer that's applied to a lattice that's applied to your geometry. So it's really fantastically flexible. Yeah, okay, have fun.